The police knocked on my door at 10:52 p.m. that night to tell me my husband's car had exploded on the highway, cause unknown. But when I opened his GPS tracking app, his last location wasn't where the explosion happened. It was at a cheap motel 14 minutes away. And the name on the guest registry alongside his made my blood run cold. My name is Evelyn Hart. And until that October evening, I thought I had built a life worth envying. 34 years old, with a marketing position at Brightline Media Group that I'd worked hard to earn, living in a colonial-style house in Willow Creek, Colorado. That smelled perpetually of the lavender candles I collected. 7 years of marriage to Landon had given me a sense of stability I'd craved since childhood, when my parents' volatile relationship taught me that love could be both beautiful and destructive. That Thursday started like any other. I'd left work at 5:30 p.m., stopping at Whole Foods to pick up salmon and asparagus for dinner. Landon loved my honey-glazed salmon, always said it was better than any restaurant's. As I drove home, NPR droning about economic forecasts, something cold settled in my stomach. Not quite nausea, not quite fear, just a whisper of wrongness that made me turn the radio off and drive the last 10 minutes in silence. Our kitchen faced west, and autumn light poured through the windows as I prepped dinner. The knife moved rhythmically through the asparagus stalks, each cut precise and clean. I'd always found cooking meditative, a way to transition from the chaos of managing client campaigns to the supposed peace of home. The salmon sizzled in the pan, filling the kitchen with the scent of garlic and herbs. My phone buzzed on the marble counter. Landon's face smiled up at me from the screen, a photo from our anniversary trip to Aspen last year. His brown eyes crinkled with genuine joy, back when that joy still included me. Running late tonight. Babe, Collins wants to grab drinks to discuss the Morrison project. Don't wait up. Love you. Collins, his colleague from the engineering firm, a divorced 40-something who treated happy hour like a religious obligation. I typed back a quick, "Okay, be safe," and added a heart emoji, then deleted it. Added it again. Deleted it. Sent the message without it. The salmon was perfectly flaky. The asparagus still had a slight crunch. I ate alone at our dining table, scrolling through Instagram, double-tapping photos of college friends' babies and vacation sunsets. Outside, the suburban street was quiet except for the Johnsons' dog barking at shadows. Everything was normal. Everything was fine. I was loading the dishwasher when the doorbell rang. 8:47 p.m. Too late for packages. Too early for Landon to have forgotten his keys. Through the peephole, I saw 2 police officers, their faces grave under the porch light I'd been meaning to replace for months. My hands fumbled with the deadbolt. "Can I help you?" Mrs. Hart. The older officer badge reading Morrison had the kind of mustache that belonged in an 80s cop show. "I'm Officer Morrison. This is Officer Diaz. May we come in?" The cold feeling from earlier crystallized into ice. "What happened? Is Landon okay?" They exchanged glances, the kind of look that preceded life-altering news. "There's been an incident involving your husband's vehicle. Ma'am, he's at Presbyterian St. Luke's. He's stable, but you should come with us." Stable. What do you mean stable? What happened? Officer Diaz, younger with kind eyes, spoke carefully. His car was involved in an explosion on I-70. The cause is under investigation. He was lucky he'd exited the vehicle moments before. Explosion. The word didn't compute. Cars didn't just explode. This was Willow Creek, where the biggest news was usually about school board elections or wildlife sightings. I grabbed my purse, not bothering to change out of my work blazer and jeans. In the police cruiser, Morrison explained what they knew precious little. Landon's BMW had suddenly caught fire near mile marker 262. He'd managed to pull over and escape before the gas tank ignited. A passing trucker had called 911. "Was anyone else hurt?" I asked, watching the familiar streets blur past. "No other vehicles were involved," Morrison said, but something in his tone suggested this wasn't the simple mechanical failure it might appear to be. Presbyterian St. Luke's emergency room smelled of disinfectant and fear. The fluorescent lights made everyone look sick, even those who weren't. A nurse directed me to room 12. The irony of that number wouldn't hit me until later. Landon sat on the hospital bed, a bandage on his left temple, his right arm wrapped in gauze. Not the devastating injuries I'd imagined during the 15-minute ride that felt like hours. He looked up when I entered, and for a split second, I saw something in his eyes, not relief at seeing me, but something else. Guilt-fear. "Evie," he said, using the nickname that once made me melt. Now it just sounded hollow. I crossed to him, my hand finding his uninjured one. His palm was sweaty, and he pulled away after barely a squeeze. "What happened?" "They said your car exploded." "I don't know. I was driving back from downtown, and I smelled smoke." Pulled over just in time. His voice was steady, but his eyes kept darting to the door, to his phone on the bedside table, anywhere but my face. Officer Morrison appeared in the doorway. "Mr. Hart, we'll need to ask you some more questions when you're feeling up to it. The fire investigator found some concerning evidence. This might not have been an accident." The room suddenly felt airless. "Someone tried to kill you." The words came out strangled. Landon's jaw clenched. "That's crazy! Who would want to hurt me?" But he said it too quickly, too defensively. In 7 years of marriage, I'd learned to read his tells, the way he rubbed his thumb against his index finger when lying about small things, the slight rise in pitch when he was nervous. Both were happening now. His phone buzzed on the table. He lunged for it, but the IV line pulled taut. I reached it first, just trying to help, and saw the notification that would begin unraveling everything. "Your room is ready. Motel Maplewood, room 12. The notification glowed on his phone screen for exactly 3 seconds before Landon snatched it from my hand. 3 seconds that stretched like elastic, warping the hospital room into something unrecognizable. The heart monitor's steady beep suddenly sounded too loud, too fast, though I realized later it was my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. What's that about?" My voice came out surprisingly steady, though my insides were churning like a washing machine on spin cycle. Landon's thumb moved quickly, dismissing the notification. "Nothing. Just, Collins booked a room for tomorrow's early meeting with the contractors. You know how he is about planning ahead." The lie rolled off his tongue so smoothly I might have believed it if I hadn't spent 7 years memorizing the microscopic twitch in his left eyelid that appeared whenever he was fabricating stories. There it was. Flutter quick, but unmistakable. "Collins booked you a room at a motel." I kept my tone neutral, curious rather than accusatory. "Not the Marriott where your firm has a corporate rate." "Budget cuts," he said quickly, then winced and touched his bandaged temple. God, my head is killing me. As if on cue, a nurse bustled in with a clipboard and a professional smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Mr. Hart, we need to run a few more tests. The doctor wants to keep you overnight for observation, given the circumstances." "Overnight?" Landon's voice pitched higher. "But I feel fine. Just a few scratches. Hospital policy with potential head trauma," the nurse said firmly. "Your wife can stay if she'd like." I watched Landon's face cycle through emotions: frustration, panic, then forced resignation. "No, Evie should go home, get some rest. It's been a long night." The dismissal stung more than it should have. A year ago, he would have begged me to stay, would have held my hand through every test and complained about the uncomfortable bed until I laughed. Now he couldn't wait to get rid of me. Officer Morrison reappeared, his notebook out. "Mr. Hart, I need to ask you a few more questions. Where exactly were you coming from when the incident occurred?" "Downtown," Landon said. "Meeting with clients." "Which clients will need to verify your whereabouts for the investigation?" While Landon's jaw worked silently for a moment. "Actually, the meeting got canceled. I was just driving around, clearing my head. Work's been stressful lately." Morrison's pen paused over his notebook. "So you were alone?" No one can confirm your location before the explosion. No, I guess not. The officer made a note, his expression unreadable. Mrs. Hart, were you aware of your husband's plans this evening? He texted me about drinks with Collins, I said, watching Landon's face. To discuss the Morrison project. Morrison looked between us. But you just said the meeting was canceled, Mr. Hart. Different meeting, Landon said quickly. The client meeting was canceled, so I was going to meet Collins instead, but then… He gestured vaguely at his bandages. The lies were stacking up like Jenga blocks, precarious and ready to topple. Morrison clearly sensed it too, his questions becoming more pointed. Mr. Hart, is there anyone who might wish you harm? Any disputes, professional or personal? No, Landon said, too forcefully. Nobody. What about the Morrison project? I asked, surprising myself with the question. You mentioned last week that there were some issues with the subcontractors. Landon's eyes flashed with something anger. Warning, that's just business, Evie. Nothing serious. Morrison wrote something else down. We'll need a list of everyone you've had professional dealings with in the past 6 months. The fire investigator found traces of an accelerant. This was deliberate. The word deliberate hung in the antiseptic air. Someone had tried to kill my husband. Or had they? I studied Landon's face, searching for fear, for shock, for any normal reaction to learning someone wanted you dead. Instead, I found calculation, his mind clearly working through scenarios, alibis, explanations. I should go, I said suddenly, needing air, needing space to think. If you're staying overnight, I'll bring you some things in the morning, your phone charger, clean clothes. No need, Landon said quickly. I'll probably be discharged early. I'll just grab an Uber home. An Uber home. From the hospital. After someone tried to kill him. The absurdity of it would have made me laugh if my chest wasn't so tight. I leaned down to kiss his forehead, a gesture of habit more than affection. He smelled wrong, not like cologne or smoke from the explosion, but like perfume. Something floral and young, nothing I owned. Feel better, I whispered, and saw him relax as I turned to leave. In the hallway, I passed the nurses' station where 2 nurses were discussing shift changes. The elevator was at the end of the corridor, but I turned right instead. Finding a family waiting room with vending machines humming fluorescently, I sat in a cracked vinyl chair and pulled out my phone, typing Motel Maplewood into Google Maps. 14 minutes from the explosion site. 32 minutes from downtown where his non-existent meeting would have been. 8 minutes from our house. 8 minutes. I stared at the red pin on the map, my mind cataloging every time in recent months when Landon had worked late, met with Collins, had client dinners that ran long. How many of those nights had ended at Motel Maplewood? How many times had he been 8 minutes away from our home, our life, our marriage, while buried in someone else? The thought made bile rise in my throat. I made it to the bathroom just in time, retching over the toilet while a concerned stranger asked if I needed help through the door. I mumbled that I was fine, though fine had become a word without meaning. When I emerged, Officer Morrison was waiting by the vending machines. Mrs. Hart, a word. We sat in the uncomfortable chairs, the fluorescent lights making both of us look haggard. Your husband's story has some inconsistencies, he said carefully. In my experience, when someone's car is deliberately sabotaged, they usually have some idea why. People don't keep secrets from their spouses unless those secrets are worth keeping. I met his eyes, seeing unexpected kindness there. Are you suggesting my husband knows who did this? I'm suggesting that explosion might have saved you from a different kind of devastation, he said quietly. Sometimes the truth comes out in unexpected ways. If you need resources, support, the department has connections with counselors who specialize in complex marital situations. He handed me a business card, not for himself, but for a therapist named Dr. Sarah Winters. The subtitle read, Specializing in Betrayal, Trauma, and Recovery. Morrison stood to leave, then paused. That motel notification on his phone. You might want to look into that. Just be careful. If someone really is trying to hurt your husband, you need to know why before you get caught in the crossfire. After he left, I sat in that waiting room until midnight, staring at the business card and the Google Maps pin, feeling the first crack in the dam I'd built around my suspicions. Tomorrow, I promised myself, tomorrow I would find out exactly what was happening at Motel Maplewood, room 12. I didn't know then that the truth would be worse than any explosion. Sleep never came that night. I lay in our California king bed, staring at the ceiling fan's lazy rotation while Landon's pillow remained untouched beside me. The house creaked and settled in ways I'd never noticed before, each sound making me jump. At 3:15 a.m., I gave up pretending and made coffee, sitting at the kitchen island with Landon's phone bill spread before me. 3 months of statements, highlighted and annotated. Data overages every month, always on the same dates, Tuesday nights. Thursday afternoons, Saturday mornings when he claimed to be at the gym. I'd never checked before. Why would I trust was supposed to be the foundation of marriage, the invisible thread that held everything together? By sunrise, I'd formulated a plan, not confrontation that would only lead to more lies, more gaslighting, more careful deception. I needed proof, concrete and undeniable, the kind that wouldn't let him twist reality into something more palatable. Landon came home at 9:20 a.m., looking haggard but walking steadily. No Uber. I noted. Someone had driven him. He mumbled about being tired and went straight to shower. The moment I heard water running, I grabbed his phone from where he'd left it charging on the nightstand. His password hadn't changed, still our anniversary date. The familiarity of it felt like mockery. I went straight to his GPS history, my fingers trembling as I scrolled through the timeline. Motel Maplewood appeared like a cancer spreading through our life. Every Tuesday for 3 months, some Thursdays. Last Saturday when he'd said he was meeting his brother for golf. The Saturday before that when he'd claimed car trouble. Lie after lie, marked in digital precision by Google's unforgiving memory. But there was more. Credit card charges he'd hidden by using our joint account's secondary card, the one we'd gotten for emergencies and forgotten about. Room service at the motel. Flowers from a shop I'd never heard of. A jewelry store charge for $300 2 weeks ago, when the only jewelry I'd received lately was a discount bracelet for my birthday. I screenshot everything, sending it to my private email, my own phone, and a cloud folder he didn't know existed. My hands moved with the efficiency of someone in shock, every action automatic while my mind struggled to process the betrayal. The water shut off. I quickly returned his phone to the nightstand and retreated to the kitchen. Busying myself with making breakfast I wouldn't eat. "Smells good," Landon said, entering in fresh clothes, his hair still damp. He moved to kiss my cheek, and I let him, noting how he barely made contact. "How are you feeling?" I asked, flipping pancakes I wanted to throw at his lying face. "Better. Listen, about last night. I'm sorry if I seemed off. The explosion just rattled me." "Of course," I said smoothly. "Anyone would be shaken. Did they figure out what caused it?" He shrugged, pouring coffee with steady hands. "Mechanical failure. Probably. These BMWs have had issues." Another lie. Morrison had specifically said accelerant, deliberate, investigation. But I just nodded, playing the concerned but trusting wife while my insides churned with rage. "I might go into the office later," he said casually. "Catch up on some work. On a Saturday after nearly dying yesterday. You know how it is." "The Morrison Project won't manage itself." The Morrison Project. I'd looked into that too, during my 3 a.m. investigation. The project had been completed 2 months ago. There was no Morrison Project anymore. "Of course," I said again, serving him pancakes with a smile that felt carved into my face. "Actually, I might go shopping. Retail therapy. You know, after the scare yesterday." He relaxed visibly. "Good idea. Treat yourself." Treat myself. With our money. while he spent it on motel rooms and jewelry for someone else. An hour later, I sat in my car outside Motel Maplewood. It was exactly as depressing as I'd imagined a two-story building with outdoor corridors, paint peeling from the railings, a sign missing its L so it read Moat Maplewood, the kind of place that rented by the hour and didn't ask questions. Room 12 was on the ground floor, end unit. The curtains were drawn, but a car was parked outside a white Honda Civic with a parking pass hanging from the mirror, a Brightline Media Group parking pass. My blood turned to ice water. I knew that car, had seen it every day in the company lot, usually parked 3 spaces down from mine. The baby on board sticker had always seemed ironic, given that its owner was 29 and childless. I pulled out my phone and opened Instagram, navigating to a profile I'd viewed countless times before when mentoring its owner. Haley Grant's feed was full of motivational quotes, workout selfies, and careful casual photos that took hours to stage. The most recent post, from yesterday afternoon, showed a coffee cup with the caption, "Afternoon pick-me-up, ready for whatever tonight brings," posted at 4:33 p.m., 3 hours before Landon's car exploded. I scrolled back further, my stomach dropping with each post. 3 months of breadcrumbs I'd been too blind to see. The fancy dinner photo where she'd cropped out her companion but missed the reflection in the wine glass, Landon's watch, his hand. The spa day selfie with a hotel robe that matched the ones from Motel Maplewood's website. The jewelry, a delicate necklace that appeared 2 weeks ago, right after that $300 charge. My protégé, the woman I'd recommended for promotion, who called me her work mom and asked for advice about everything from presentations to dating apps, who'd sat in my office last week crying about how hard it was to find a good man, how all the best ones were taken. The parking lot suddenly felt too small, too exposed. I started my car and drove to a nearby Starbucks, ordering a coffee I didn't want just to have something to do with my shaking hands. Haley Grant. It wasn't just the affair that gutted me, it was the calculation of it. She'd studied my life, my marriage, my vulnerabilities, all while pretending to admire me. Every coffee date where she'd asked about Landon, claiming she hoped to find someone as wonderful. Every time she'd complimented my relationship, saying we were couple goals. Every sympathetic nod when I'd mentioned he was working late again. She'd known. She'd known because she was the reason. I pulled up our company directory and found her emergency contact information. Her Instagram was public, but her Facebook required friendship. I sent a request from a fake account I'd created years ago for checking on competitors. Within minutes, she'd accepted she was that kind of person, collecting friends like trophies. Her Facebook told a different story than Instagram. Photos she'd hidden from her professional feed but felt safe sharing with friends. Pictures from what she called girls' nights that showed her at bars, at clubs, at the kind of places Landon claimed to hate. And there, in the background of a photo from 6 weeks ago, Landon. Blurry but unmistakable. At a table behind her, watching. They'd been planning this for longer than 3 months. The motel was just where they'd gotten careless, or bold, or both. I closed Facebook and opened a new document on my phone, typing with the cold precision of someone documenting a crime scene. Dates, times, evidence, patterns. Building a case not for court, but for something much more satisfying, complete and utter destruction. The coffee shop filled with Saturday morning families, couples on weekend dates, friends catching up, normal people living normal lives while I sat in the corner planning how to destroy 2 people who'd destroyed me first. My phone buzzed. Landon, heading to the office now, be home late, don't wait up. I typed back, be safe, love you. Then I drove home and began preparing for war. The Starbucks bathroom mirror reflected a stranger. Same blonde hair pulled into a messy bun. Same green eyes my mother had passed down. Same small scar above my left eyebrow from a childhood bike accident. But the woman staring back at me was someone new, someone who'd just discovered her life was a carefully constructed lie. I drove back to Motel Maplewood at 2:45 p.m., parking across the street at a strip mall where I could watch without being seen. The white Civic was still there. My husband's Uber account showed he'd taken a ride from our house to downtown an hour ago. Downtown, which apparently meant this festering wound of a motel. At 3:17 p.m., the door to room 12 opened. Haley emerged first, her hair tousled in that just fucked way she'd never wear to the office. She stretched like a cat in the afternoon sun, wearing one of Landon's college t-shirts I'd been looking for last month. He'd said he'd donated it to Goodwill. Then Landon appeared behind her, shirtless, his arm wrapping around her waist as he pulled her back for a kiss that went on long enough for me to take 17 photos. They were laughing when they finally broke apart. The kind of carefree joy I hadn't seen on his face in months, maybe years. I zoomed in on the last photo. His wedding ring was gone. The need to vomit was overwhelming, but I swallowed it down with the rage that was building like a volcano in my chest. They went back inside, closing the door on their sordid little paradise, and I sat in my car reviewing the images until they were burned into my retinas. My phone rang. Haley's name flashed on the screen. For a moment, I considered letting it go to voicemail, but some masochistic part of me needed to hear her voice, needed to know how far the performance went. "Hi, Haley." My voice came out normal, friendly even. Years of client management had taught me to compartmentalize. Evelyn. "Oh my God, I heard about Landon's accident. Is he okay? Are you okay? I've been so worried." The false concern dripped like honey laced with arsenic. In the background, I could hear a TV playing the same channel I could see flickering through the gap in room 12's curtains. "He's fine," I said, watching the shadows move behind those curtains. "Just some minor injuries. He's actually at the office catching up on work." "On a Saturday. That man works too hard. You're so lucky to have someone that dedicated." Dedicated. I almost laughed. "Listen," she continued. "I wanted to ask your advice about something. You know that guy I've been seeing. Things are getting serious, and I'm not sure how to handle the workplace dynamics. He's in a different industry, but still, I value your mentorship so much." The guy she'd been seeing, the fabrication was elaborate, designed to throw me off any potential suspicion. Create a fictional boyfriend to explain away any behavioral changes, any new jewelry, any glow of someone getting regularly fucked by another woman's husband. "I'd love to chat about it," I said, my free hand gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles went white. "Maybe Monday over coffee. Perfect, you're the best. Evelyn, seriously, I don't know what I'd do without you." After she hung up, I sat in silence for 30 seconds. Then I screamed, a primal sound that filled the car and left my throat raw. A woman loading groceries nearby looked startled, but I didn't care. Let her look. Let everyone look at the woman whose life was unraveling in a strip mall parking lot. I called in sick to work Monday morning, claiming a stomach bug. Instead, I hired a private investigator named Marcus Webb, whose office smelled like cigarettes and broken dreams, but who came highly recommended by my divorce lawyer friend, Sandra. "I need everything," I told him, sliding a folder across his cluttered desk. "Financial records, timeline, photos, videos if possible, and I need it fast." Marcus, a former cop with tired eyes, flipped through my preliminary evidence. "This your husband. For now." He nodded slowly. "And the woman. My subordinate at work. My mentee. My friend." The last word came out bitter as coffee grounds. "That's cold," he said, and from a man who'd probably seen everything, it somehow validated my rage. "Give me a week. I'll have enough to bury them both." But I didn't need a week. That evening, Landon came home whistling, like a man without a care in the world, not someone whose car had exploded 2 days ago under suspicious circumstances. "Good day at the office?" I asked, chopping vegetables with perhaps more force than necessary. "Productive," he said, grabbing a beer from the fridge. "Got a lot done." I'd checked with his colleague, Tom. Landon hadn't been to the office at all. "Haley called me," I said casually, watching his reflection in the microwave door. She's concerned about you. His hand paused for just a second on the beer bottle. That's nice of her. She's such a sweet girl, so dedicated to the company. I'm thinking of recommending her for the senior manager position. Really? His voice was carefully neutral. Doesn't she need more experience? Maybe. But she shows such promise, and she's so eager to learn, always staying late, going above and beyond. I turned to face him, holding the knife loosely in my hand. Don't you think she deserves recognition for all her hard work? Our eyes met across the kitchen island. For a moment, the mask slipped, and I saw panic flash across his features. He knew that I knew something, but not how much. The knife felt heavy in my hand, and I had to consciously set it down before I did something that would land me in prison while they walked free. Whatever you think is best, he said finally. You know her better than anyone. Did I know the woman who'd sat across from me at lunch last Tuesday, talking about her trust issues from past relationships while wearing the necklace my husband had bought her? Did I know the man who'd stood beside me at our wedding, promising fidelity until death, who now couldn't even look me in the eye? That night, Landon tried to initiate sex for the first time in weeks. His hands on my skin felt like spiders, and I pleaded a headache that wasn't entirely fake. He rolled away, rejected but relieved, and within minutes was snoring. I lay beside him, staring at the ceiling, planning their destruction with the methodical precision I'd once reserved for marketing campaigns. Every angle, every contingency, every possible outcome mapped and measured. They'd turned me into someone I didn't recognize, but maybe that someone was who I needed to be. The naive wife was dead, burned up in that car explosion that might have been meant for me all along, the inconvenient spouse standing between them and their happiness. But they'd failed to kill me, literally or figuratively, and that would be their biggest mistake. I reached for my phone and opened the voice recorder, whispering into the darkness. Day 3. Evidence collected. Phase 2 begins tomorrow. Tomorrow, I would start pulling the threads that would unravel their entire world. But tonight, I lay next to my husband one last time, memorizing the sound of his breathing, the shape of his silhouette, the way our bed would feel when he was gone, because he was already gone. He just didn't know it yet. Tuesday morning arrived with unseasonable snow, Colorado's weather as unpredictable as my marriage had turned out to be. I sat in my home office, 3 monitors displaying the evidence Marcus Webb had delivered the night before. He'd worked faster than promised, and the results were devastating. Screenshots of their text messages, recovered from a cloud backup Landon thought he'd deleted. Can't wait to be inside you again, sent at 2:30 p.m., while I was presenting quarterly reports. She's so clueless from Haley at 11:45 p.m., while I slept beside him. The most damaging once her dad's inheritance comes through next year. We can finally be together for real. My father's inheritance. The trust fund that would mature on my 35th birthday 4 months away. $3.2 million that Landon knew about because I'd foolishly believed in transparency in marriage. They weren't just having an affair. They were planning a future built on my money and my humiliation. I closed the messages and opened the financial records Marcus had compiled. The secondary credit card showed more than just motel rooms and jewelry. There were charges at a fertility clinic consultations for Mr. and Mrs. Hart that I'd never attended. Restaurant bills at places Landon told me he hated. A storage unit rental starting 2 months ago, probably where he was slowly moving his things. The most insulting charge, $900 at a couple's retreat in Aspen last month, when he'd claimed to be at an engineering conference. The same resort where we'd honeymooned. I methodically organized everything into folders: evidence, finances, legal, professional, and one labeled nuclear. That last folder contained the piece de resistance security footage Marcus had obtained from a bar showing Landon and Haley with 3 members of our company's board of directors, clearly discussing something that had Haley's hand on the CEO's thigh under the table. She wasn't just fucking my husband. She was fucking her way up the corporate ladder, and Landon was her willing accomplice. probably promising insider information from my position to grease the wheels. The doorbell interrupted my cataloging. Through the peephole, I saw Detective Morrison, looking tired but determined. "Mrs. Hart, may I come in? There's been a development in your husband's case." I let him in, noting how his eyes swept the room, taking in details like a habit he couldn't shake. "Would you like coffee, Detective?" "That would be great, actually." In the kitchen, I poured 2 cups while he settled at the island. "So, what's the development? The accelerant used in your husband's car, it's a specific type, commonly used in industrial settings. We traced recent purchases to 3 buyers. One of them made a cash purchase 4 days before the explosion. And the buyer used a fake ID, but security cameras caught them. Young woman, late 20s, blonde hair." He pulled out a grainy photo. "We're having trouble identifying her." "I was wondering if you might recognize her." The photo was blurry, but the build, the posture, the way she held her head, it could have been Haley. It could have been a dozen other women, too. "I'm not sure," I said honestly. "The quality isn't great." Morrison nodded, sipping his coffee. "Mrs. Hart, I need to ask some uncomfortable questions. Has your husband given you any reason to suspect infidelity?" The laugh escaped before I could stop it, bitter and sharp. Morrison's eyebrows rose slightly. "I found out 3 days ago," I admitted. "He's been having an affair with my colleague, my subordinate. Actually—" "I see." Morrison pulled out his notebook. "And this colleague's name, Haley Grant." He wrote it down, then looked at me with those tired cop eyes. "Mrs. Hart, I need to ask, where were you the night of the explosion? Home, making dinner. Your officers can verify when I answered the door. Can anyone confirm you were home before that?" I thought about it. "I stopped at Whole Foods around 5:30. They'll have cameras. Got home around 6. The neighbors might have seen me pull in." Morrison nodded, making notes. "And Ms. Grant, do you know where she was?" "No idea." I lied smoothly. I knew exactly where she'd been posting on Instagram from somewhere that wasn't the motel, establishing an alibi while Landon's car burned. "Has your husband seemed worried lately? Mentioned any threats?" "No, nothing like that." I paused, as if considering. "Although, yes, he has been acting strange, secretive, more than just the affair, moving money around, setting up accounts I didn't know about. All true, and all traceable if Morrison looked." The detective finished his coffee and stood. "Mrs. Hart, I'm going to be frank. Either someone tried to kill your husband, or your husband wanted it to look like someone tried to kill him. Either way, you need to be careful. If he's involved in something dangerous, you could be collateral damage." After he left, I sat at the kitchen island where Landon and I had shared hundreds of meals, where we'd planned our future, where he'd proposed on a random Tuesday because he said he couldn't wait another day to start our life together. I pulled out my phone and scrolled to Haley's contact. My thumb hovered over the call button. One conversation and I could destroy her. But that would be too quick, too merciful. She deserved the slow burn of destruction, the gradual realization that her carefully constructed world was collapsing. Instead, I texted her, "Coffee tomorrow, I have exciting news about the senior position." She responded immediately with a string of emojis and exclamation points. Such enthusiasm for someone who'd been exhausted from fucking my husband all afternoon. Next, I opened a new email to our CEO, marking it confidential. "I've discovered some concerning behavior that needs your immediate attention. I have documented evidence of inappropriate relationships and potential corporate espionage within our department. I'd like to schedule a private meeting at your earliest convenience." Then I called my lawyer friend Sandra. "I need the best divorce attorney you know, someone who specializes in high asset cases with infidelity and financial fraud." Jesus, Evelyn, how bad is it? Biblical. She gave me 3 names. I called the first one, Victoria Brennan, who sounded like she ate men for breakfast and picked her teeth with their bones. "I can see you Thursday at 9 a.m., she said after I'd given her the synopsis. "Bring everything, every document, every photo, every text, and Mrs. Heart stop sleeping in the same house as him. You're in danger, legally and possibly physically. That night, Landon came home late again, smelling of perfume and lies. I was in the guest room with the door locked, having told him I had a stomach bug and didn't want him to catch it. "You sure you're okay?" he called through the door, his concern almost convincing. "Fine, just need rest." "I love you, Evie." The words hit like bullets, each one drawing blood. How dare he? How dare he stand outside this door and profess love when he'd spent the afternoon inside another woman? "Love you too," I managed, because the game wasn't over yet. He couldn't know that I was no longer his naive wife, but his calculating enemy, documenting every lie, every betrayal, building a case that would leave him with nothing but the ashes of what we'd built together. I heard his footsteps retreat to our bedroom, his bedroom now. Opening my laptop, I began composing an email to both sets of parents, scheduling a dinner for next week. Subject line, important family announcement. They thought they were so clever, sneaking around, planning their future on the bones of my marriage. But I'd spent 7 years learning Landon's every tell, every weakness, every fear. And Haley. She'd made the mistake of thinking my mentorship made me soft, that my kindness meant I couldn't be cruel. They were about to learn that the opposite of love wasn't hate. It was the cold, calculated precision of someone with nothing left to lose and everything to gain from their destruction. The dinner was scheduled for Saturday at 7 p.m. at the Wilderness, Willow Creek's finest restaurant, where Landon and I had celebrated every anniversary. I'd reserved their private dining room, telling the manager it was for a special family announcement. She'd smiled knowingly, probably assuming pregnancy. If only she knew the real surprise I had planned. The week leading up to it required Oscar-worthy performance skills. I went to work, attended meetings, had coffee with Haley where she gushed about her boyfriend while wearing the earrings my husband had bought her. I came home each evening to find Landon increasingly relaxed, convinced his secret was safe, that his stupid wife suspected nothing. Thursday's meeting with Victoria Brennan had been illuminating. She'd reviewed my evidence with the efficiency of a surgeon, occasionally making approving sounds. "The fertility clinic visits are particularly damaging," she said, manicured nails tapping on a photograph. "Planning a family with another woman while married, judges hate that. The inheritance planning is conspiracy to commit fraud. And these corporate espionage implications. Your husband isn't just losing his marriage, he's looking at potential criminal charges." "Good," I said, and meant it. "Now, about the dinner party you're planning." "I'm not asking for legal advice about that," I interrupted. "Just handle the divorce filing for Monday morning." She studied me over her reading glasses. "Mrs. Hart, revenge might feel satisfying, but it's not revenge. It's justice." "There's a difference." Friday afternoon, I sent the final invitation text to our group chat. "Tomorrow night, 7 p.m., the Wilderness private room. Cocktails first. We have something important to share. Dress code cocktail attire?" Landon's mother, Patricia, immediately responded, "How exciting should we expect good news?" I typed back life-changing news. Haley had RSVP'd yes to the dinner, claiming she had to move things around but wouldn't miss it for the world. I'd told her it was a department celebration, that the senior position was hers, that I wanted her to meet some board members. The ego stroke was too much for her to resist. Saturday arrived gray and cold. I spent the morning at the salon, having my hair and makeup done. The stylist commented that I looked like I was going to war. "In a way," I said, admiring my reflection. I looked powerful, untouchable, nothing like the crying mess I'd been a week ago. At 5 p.m., I dressed carefully in the black Versace dress Landon had bought me for my 30th birthday, back when he still loved me, or pretended to. The diamond necklace he'd given me for our 5th anniversary completed the look let him see what he was losing. "You look incredible," Landon said when I emerged from the guest room. He'd been trying all week to get me back in our bed, confused by my sudden distance but not alarmed enough to probe deeper. "Special occasion," I said, smoothing the dress. We should go. Don't want to be late for our own announcement. In the car, he reached for my hand. I let him take it, memorizing the feel of his fingers intertwined with mine one last time. His wedding ring caught the light he'd started wearing it again this week, probably sensing some shift in the atmosphere he couldn't quite identify. The restaurant had outdone themselves. The private room glowed with candlelight, fresh flowers on every surface, champagne already chilling. I'd specifically requested the round table no head, no position of power, everyone equal for the show. My parents arrived first, my mother immediately fussing over how thin I looked, then Landon's parents, Patricia already 3 drinks in and speculating loudly about grandchildren. His brother James and sister Monica followed, then my sister Claire with her husband. Haley arrived at 6:55, wearing a red dress that I recognized from her Instagram, the one she'd worn to the work event 3 weeks ago that was actually a date with my husband. She air-kissed me, the Judas kiss of a woman who'd perfected betrayal. "You look amazing, Evelyn. This is so exciting." "You have no idea," I said, guiding her to her seat directly across from where Landon would sit. Landon's face when he saw her was a masterpiece of panic. His eyes darted between us, trying to read the situation, to understand how his mistress had ended up at a family dinner. "Everyone, this is Haley Grant," I announced warmly. "My protege at Brightline Media. She's been such an important part of our lives lately. I wanted her here for this announcement." Haley beamed, oblivious to the trap closing around her. Landon looked like he might vomit into the $1,000 floral centerpiece. We made small talk through cocktails and appetizers. I kept the conversation flowing, asking Patricia about her book club, James about his new boat. Anything to maintain the facade of normalcy while Landon sweated through his Tom Ford shirt. Finally, as the main course was served, filet mignon, Landon's favorite, I stood, raising my champagne glass. "Thank you all for coming tonight. Family means everything to me, which is why I wanted you all here for this announcement." Everyone leaned forward expectantly. Landon's knuckles were white around his whiskey glass. "Change is never easy," I continued, my voice steady as steel. "But sometimes it's necessary. Sometimes the life we're living isn't the life we deserve." My mother nodded supportively, probably thinking I was about to announce a career change or a move. 7 years ago, I married Landon thinking I'd found my forever. I believed in our vows, in our commitment, in the family we were building together. Patricia was practically vibrating with grandchild anticipation. Haley was smiling that fake supportive smile, playing the role of admiring subordinate to perfection. But 3 months ago, things changed. Landon found someone new, someone exciting, someone who made him feel alive in ways I apparently couldn't anymore. The room went silent except for the soft clink of Landon's glass hitting his plate. "And the really beautiful part," I continued, making eye contact with each person at the table, "that someone is sitting right here with us tonight. Haley, would you like to tell everyone about your relationship with my husband?" Haley's face drained of color so fast I worried she might faint. What, Evelyn? I don't understand." "No, let me help." I pulled out my phone, connecting it to the room's screen system, a feature I'd specifically requested. This might clarify things. The first image appeared Landon and Haley kissing outside room 12, then another, then another. Then the text messages, blown up for everyone to read. "Can't wait to be inside you again. She's so clueless. Once her dad's inheritance comes through next year, we can finally be together for real." Patricia's gasp could probably be heard in the main dining room. My father stood up, his face purple with rage, held back only by my mother's hand on his arm. Haley was crying, mascara running in black rivers down her cheeks. "But wait," I said, my voice cutting through the chaos. "There's more." The fertility clinic receipts appeared on screen. The charges at the couple's retreat, the storage unit rental, the evidence of corporate espionage, Haley's hand on our CEO's thigh while Landon watched. They weren't just having an affair, I explained to my stunned audience. They were planning a future A future funded by my inheritance, built on my career connections, at the expense of my dignity. James stood up, his chair scraping against the floor. "You fucking piece of shit," he said to his own brother. "You absolute fucking piece of shit." But Landon wasn't looking at him. He was looking at me. And for the first time in months, I saw the real him, not the carefully constructed husband, but the selfish, calculating man who'd played me for a fool. "Evelyn," he started, but I raised my hand. "I'm not finished." The screen changed to a police report. "There's also the matter of the car explosion. Detective Morrison has been very interested in who might want to harm Landon. Or who might want to make it look like someone wanted to harm him." "You crazy bitch," Landon snarled, his mask finally completely off. "You're implying I blew up my own car." "I'm not implying anything. I'm just presenting facts, like the fact that you increased your life insurance policy 2 months ago, or that Haley purchased accelerant 4 days before the explosion. Yes, they have you on camera, Haley. Or that you were supposedly at a meeting that never existed." Haley's sobbing had become hyperventilation. I never, it wasn't supposed to." "Shut up!" Landon roared at her, and the raw violence in his voice made everyone recoil. Patricia stood shakily, gripping the table for support. "Landon Michael Hart, tell me this isn't true. Tell me you didn't betray your wife, your family, everything we raised you to be." His silence was answer enough. "And you." Patricia turned to Haley with a venom I'd never seen from the usually gentle woman. "Sitting here at this table, eating our food, pretending to be Evelyn's friend while you're spreading your legs for her husband. What kind of woman are you?" "The kind who's about to be unemployed," I said calmly, pulling out my phone. "Our CEO is expecting my call." I dialed, putting it on speaker. "Evelyn." Richard Brennan's voice filled the room. "Is it done?" "Yes, sir. You're on speaker with both parties present." "Ms. Grant, your employment with Brightline Media is terminated effective immediately. Security will be at your apartment within the hour to collect all company property. Your final paycheck will be mailed minus the cost of the resources you misappropriated for personal use." "You can't do this!" Haley shrieked. "This is personal, not professional. Using company resources to conduct an affair, attempting to leverage board member relationships for personal gain, and potential involvement in criminal activity, I'd say it's very professional." "Oh, and Ms. Grant, every major firm in the state will have your file by Monday morning. Good luck finding employment anywhere that requires a background check." I ended the call and turned back to the table. My father had moved behind my chair, his hand protective on my shoulder. My mother was crying silently. Whether from rage or disappointment, I couldn't tell. Claire looked murderous. James was physically restraining himself from attacking his brother. "Now," I continued, pulling out a manila envelope from my purse. "Let's discuss the divorce." I slid the papers across to Landon. "You'll find the terms quite generous, considering. You get the BMW, what's left of it, and your personal belongings. I keep the house, the investments. And naturally, my inheritance remains mine. Any attempt to contest this will result in criminal charges for fraud, conspiracy, and potentially attempted insurance fraud regarding the explosion." "This is extortion," Landon said, his voice low and dangerous. "No, this is consequence." I pulled out another envelope. "Oh, and this is a restraining order. You have 24 hours to collect your belongings from the house. Police supervision will be provided. After that, you come within 500 feet of me, my home, or my workplace, and you'll be arrested." Monica, Landon's sister, finally spoke. "How long have you known?" "A week. And you planned all this in a week. I planned this in 7 days, the same number of years I wasted on a man who viewed me as an investment opportunity and a woman who saw me as a stepping stone." I looked at both of them, these pathetic creatures who'd thought me weak. "You assumed my kindness was stupidity, that my trust meant blindness, that my love made me vulnerable." I stood, placing my napkin on the table with deliberate precision. "But here's what you failed to understand. I built my career on strategic planning and flawless execution. You thought you were playing chess while I was playing checkers? In reality, you weren't even on the board. Haley suddenly lunged across the table, her hands reaching for my throat. You ruined everything we were going to be happy. James caught her before she made contact, holding her back as she thrashed and screamed. The entire restaurant could probably hear, but I didn't care. Let them hear. Let everyone know what happened when you crossed Evelyn Hart. Happy. I laughed, and even I was surprised by how cold it sounded. You were going to be happy spending my inheritance, living in my house, sleeping in my bed, wearing the jewelry bought with my money. I pulled out my phone one more time, showing a text from Marcus Webb, my investigator. By the way, Haley, your boyfriend, your real boyfriend, the one you've been stringing along as backup. He just received an anonymous tip about your extracurricular activities, along with some very explicit photos from the motel's parking lot cameras. Her face went from red to white to green. You sent him. How did you even know about Tyler? I know everything. Your apartment lease that's co-signed by your parents, your student loans in default, your 3 maxed credit cards, your little shoplifting incident from college that you thought was expunged. You weren't just fucking my husband, you were hunting for a meal ticket. Well, congratulations. You just got served your last supper. Landon had gone quiet, staring at the divorce papers like they might spontaneously combust if he looked hard enough. His mother approached him slowly, as if approaching a dangerous animal. I need you to leave, she said quietly. Don't contact me. Don't contact your father. When you've become someone worth knowing again, maybe we'll talk. But right now, I don't have a son. The sound he made was barely human, part sob, part rage, part disbelief. This was the man who'd always been the golden child, the successful engineer, the perfect son. In 7 days, I'd reduced him to nothing. Evelyn, please, he said, looking up at me with tears streaming down his face. We can work this out. I made a mistake. I love you. No, I said simply. You love yourself. You love convenience. You love the idea of having a wife who handles the emotional labor while you pursue your pleasures. But love me. You don't even know me. If you did, you would have known that destroying me would be the last mistake you ever made. I picked up my purse, a black Chanel that Landon had given me for Christmas last year, back when he was still maintaining the facade. The divorce will be final in 60 days if you don't contest. Your belongings will be in boxes in the garage. The locks have already been changed. Where will I go? He sounded lost, pathetic. Might I suggest the Motel Maplewood? I hear room 12 is lovely this time of year. As I walked toward the door, my family rose to follow. My father stopped beside Landon's chair. You know what the saddest part is, he said quietly. We loved you like a son. We trusted you with our daughter. And you threw it all away for what, a younger piece of ass and a chance at money that was never yours. He leaned closer, his voice dropping to a whisper that carried in the silent room. If you ever come near my daughter again, they'll never find your body. And unlike your little car explosion stunt, I know how to make things disappear permanently. We left them there, Landon with his head in his hands. Haley still sobbing and screaming about lawsuits and unfairness. The rest of his family either gone or turning their backs. The restaurant staff stood frozen, having witnessed the kind of drama that would become legend in Willow Creek gossip circles. In the parking lot, my mother hugged me tight. Are you okay, sweetheart? I'm perfect, I said, and meant it. For the first time in 3 months, maybe 3 years, I'm absolutely perfect. Claire took my keys. You're not driving. You're sitting in the back like the queen you are, and we're taking you home for wine and celebration. As we drove away, I looked back at the wilderness one last time. Through the window, I could see the private dining room, the ruins of what had been my marriage scattered across the table like crime scene evidence. I'd walked in there as Landon's betrayed wife. I was leaving as Evelyn Hart, destroyer of those who'd tried to destroy her first. The house felt different without the weight of lies pressing against its walls. I sat in my car in the driveway, engine running, watching the place I'd called home for 7 years. Every window was lit, Claire and my mother inside, already opening wine, already transforming this space from a museum of betrayal into something new. My phone buzzed with incoming messages. Victoria Brennan confirming the divorce filing for Monday morning. Richard Brennan confirming Haley's termination had been processed. Marcus Webb asking if I needed any additional services. I responded to each with clinical efficiency, then turned the device to silent. The cold October air bit at my skin as I stepped out of the car, but I welcomed it. It felt clean, sharp, honest, everything my marriage hadn't been. Inside, Claire had already poured 3 glasses of the expensive Bordeaux that Landon had been saving for a special occasion. "Seems special enough to me?" she said, raising her glass. We didn't toast, we just drank, letting the wine burn away the remnants of the evening's performance. "Dad's staying at a hotel near Landon's parents' house," my mother said, "making sure he doesn't try anything stupid." "He won't," I said with certainty. "Landon's a coward. When faced with real consequences, he crumbles. He'll sign the papers, take his boxes, and disappear into whatever life he can salvage with Haley." "You think they'll stay together?" Claire asked. "For about 6 weeks, until the reality sets in that they've lost everything, careers, family, social standing. Then they'll turn on each other like rabid dogs. She'll blame him for not protecting her. He'll blame her for the explosion scheme. They'll destroy each other without me having to lift another finger." My phone screen lit up with a text from an unknown number. I almost ignored it, then recognized the area code Patricia's sister in California. The message was simple. "Patricia asked me to tell you she's sorry, for raising him to be this way, for not seeing it sooner, for everything." I deleted it without responding. Some apologies came too late to matter. At 11:45 p.m., I stood in what had been our bedroom, my bedroom now. The sheets still smelled faintly of his cologne, that Tom Ford scent I'd once found intoxicating. I stripped the bed methodically, stuffing everything into garbage bags. The sheets, the pillowcases, the mattress protector, all of it would be burned tomorrow. In his nightstand drawer, I found the watch I'd given him for our first anniversary. Underneath it, a photo from our wedding day. We looked so young, so convinced that love conquered all. I studied my own face in the picture, radiant, trusting, foolish. That woman was dead now, and I felt no grief for her passing. I heard a car pull up outside. Through the window, I saw Landon's BMW, a rental, since his was destroyed, idling at the curb. He sat there for 20 minutes, probably working up the courage to violate the restraining order. Finally, the car pulled away, disappearing into the darkness where it belonged. My phone rang. Detective Morrison. "Mrs. Hart, I wanted to let you know we've made an arrest in your husband's case. Ms. Grant confessed to purchasing the accelerant, though she claims it was meant to be a prank that went wrong." "A prank?" I repeated flatly. "That's her story. Your husband is claiming complete ignorance." "Of course. But between the insurance policy changes and the evidence you've provided, the DA thinks there's enough for conspiracy charges." "Good. You knew, didn't you? When I showed you that photo, you knew it was her." "I suspected. Why didn't you say anything?" "Because I needed her to think she was safe, comfortable enough to come to that dinner, arrogant enough to believe she'd won." Morrison was quiet for a moment. "Remind me never to piss you off, Mrs. Hart." After he hung up, I walked through the house one last time. The kitchen where I'd cooked hundreds of meals for a man who was eating elsewhere, the living room where we'd watched movies, his arm around me while he texted her, the guest room where I'd spent the last week planning their destruction. Each room held ghosts, but they had no power over me now. I made myself a cup of tea and sat at the kitchen island with my laptop, reviewing the email I'd drafted to send Monday morning, a company-wide announcement about overcoming professional betrayal and the importance of ethical behavior in the workplace. No names, but everyone would know. Claire found me there at 2 a.m., still wide awake. "Can't sleep?" don't want to," I admitted. "I feel like if I sleep, I'll wake up and this will all have been a dream. They'll still be together, still laughing at me, still planning their future on the bones of my past." She sat beside me, her presence solid and reassuring. "It's real. You did it. You won." "Did I? I lost 7 years, my marriage, my faith in people." "No," she said firmly. "You lost illusions. You lost dead weight. You lost things that were holding you back from who you're supposed to be." So I looked at her. My sister who'd driven 2 hours the moment I'd called, who'd stood by me without question or judgment. Who am I supposed to be? Exactly who you became tonight, someone who doesn't accept betrayal, someone who fights back with intelligence instead of hysteria, someone who burns down kingdoms when they deserve to burn. The next morning, I woke in my freshly made bed with its new sheets, sunlight streaming through windows I'd forgotten could be so bright. My phone showed 53 missed calls from Landon, 47 from Haley, and 1 from my lawyer confirming the papers had been filed. I blocked the first 2 numbers and returned the third. The boxes were gone from the garage when I checked. Security footage showed Landon loading them into his rental at 5:37 a.m., moving like a broken man. Good. I made coffee in my kitchen, in my house, starting my life. The silence was perfect, no lies. No deception, no pretense. Just me and the glorious emptiness where my marriage used to be. My phone buzzed with a news alert. Local engineering firm under investigation for potential fraud. A photo of Landon accompanied the article. He looked haggard, defeated, finished. I deleted the alert and opened my laptop to check my work email. Monday was coming, and I had a department to run, a career to build, a life to live. The senior management position Haley had coveted would need filling. I already had 3 candidates in mind, all of them actually qualified, none of them sleeping with anyone's spouse. Through the kitchen window, I watched the suburban street wake up, the Johnsons walking their dog, kids riding bikes, normal people living normal lives, unaware that their neighbor had just conducted a masterclass in revenge. They thought the opposite of love was hate, but sitting there in my kitchen, coffee warm in my hands, freedom spreading through my veins like morphine, I knew better. The opposite of love was this perfect, pristine indifference to the ashes of what once was. I opened my laptop and began typing. Chapter 1, The Art of Rising from Ruins. My story wasn't ending. It was just beginning. Thank you so much for listening to this story of betrayal, discovery, and ultimate revenge. I hope Evelyn's journey resonated with you. Where are you listening from today? I'd love to know. Drop a comment below, and let's connect. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and share your thoughts about how you would have handled this situation. Would you have chosen revenge like Evelyn, or taken a different path? Your stories and perspectives mean everything to this community. Until next time, remember, sometimes the best revenge is a life well lived, and sometimes it's serving justice ice cold.